Today on the Front Porch, spreading the good news of gospel music.
I can't tell you how many people who, like myself, grew up in New England and sang in the traditional church choirs or choral societies, come to a Divas concert and go, oh my God, I want to do that.
Mary Edes is a Unitarian Universalist minister and co-founder of the Funky Divas of Gospel, a choir that sings music from Christian and other traditions. The other founder of the Divas is Jim McDougall, a professional musician from the Seacoast area. Tonight we'll meet both of them, learn more about the Funky Divas, and sample their new project, a double CD of spiritual songs. The Divas will officially release the album tomorrow night with a concert at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Portsmouth. I'm John Walters. It's the Funky Divas of Gospel on the Front Porch on NPR. For the past few years, the Funky Divas of Gospel have been filling the Seacoast area with song and spirit. The Divas are an all-volunteer choir of about 30 women and men based in Portsmouth. Here are the Divas and soloist Jody Gourlay with All God's Children Got Shoes. All God's Children Got Shoes from the Funky Divas' new CD don't stop at half. The Divas' music is uplifting and life-affirming. Some of it is Christian gospel, some comes from other musical traditions. The co-founders of the Funky Divas of Gospel are Mary Edes and Jim McDougall. Mary is choir director, Jim leads the group and plays keyboards. Jim talks about the mission of the Funky Divas.
Well, it's to provide uplifting and spiritual music without putting any particular philosophical bent forward. It's all about the music. And, we just want people to understand that spirituality is for everyone, and it's not exclusive to one group. And so we mix it up. I think there's only been a couple of other artists that I know of. For instance, Mighty Sam McLean will do a gospel song, and then he'll do a love song at his shows on his CDs. Al Green used to do the same thing. We don't do love songs, but what we do is we mix the styles of spiritual music. We could do a Baha'i song, we could do an African song, we could do a Christian song, all in the same set.
The members of the choir are all volunteers. What brings them together? Why did they make the commitment to join the group?
I would have to say just the pure joy of singing. It's there's something about singing that just touches both the participants, the ones who are actually doing the singing, and the people who are listening as well. It's just a very nurturing, nourishing thing to do. I don't know if you sing yourself, but it's a great thing to do. And this particular kind of music seems to touch folks in ways that other kinds don't. I can't tell you how many people who, like myself, grew up in New England and sang in the traditional church choirs or choral societies, come to a Divas concert and go, oh my God, I want to do that, because it's just fun. It's just really liberating and fun, and we're not tied to the notes in the same kind of way that we are when we do traditional choral music.
You have a number of soloists who perform with the Funky Divas. We're about to hear Sharon Jones from the new CD. Could you tell us a little bit about her?
Sharon's been just around the Seacoast forever. She sung with the Johnny Hammond Band years ago. She's a powerful vocalist, and her stage presentation is over the top. I mean, she really has a commanding presence. And you just have this overwhelming urge to obey whatever it is she wants to do. When she gets out front, when she's not singing, she fades into the choir. And that's what we like about this particular group as it stands now. All the soloists, many of them powerful in their own right, It's not about them. When they fade into the back, they sing. They're in the front row of the choir, and the choir understands that they have the soloist respect, and the reverse is also true. So Sharon's just an amazing. In fact, yesterday at the brunch, we did a brunch yesterday, and we're still talking about it this morning, how the audience was, she took these songs that last about maybe 2.5 minutes, and 6 or 7 minutes later, we're still singing the same song, and the audience is on its feet, just vibrating. So that's the kind of soloist she is.
Well, this is Sharon Jones and the Funky Divas of Gospel singing Just a Little Talk with Jesus.
Just a talk with Jesus makes it all right. Come, let us have a little talk with Jesus. And tell him all about you. He'll hear your babies crying. Answer by and by. Feel the prayer will turn. Know that the fire burns. Just a talk with Jesus makes it all right. Yeah, have a little talk with Jesus. Just a talk with Jesus. Have a talk with Jesus. Just a talk with Jesus. And tell him all about you. Tell him all about you. Tell him about you. Tell him all about you. Just have a talk with him and tell him all about you. Have a talk with him and tell him all about you. Have a talk with him. Tell him all about you. He'll hear his babies crying. Feel the prayer will turn. Know that the fire is burning. Just a talk with Jesus makes it all right.
Sharon Jones and the Funky Divas of Gospel from the Divas' new double CD, Don't Stop at Half. Not exactly the kind of music you expect to hear in New Hampshire.
That's one of the things that just cracks me up about it when I listen to it. All my life, I was brought up in a Baptist church in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and one of the things that was exciting for me to do, and it wasn't always accepted by the people in the church, but there'd be these little excursions where a small group from the church would go to hear these quartets that would come up from the south, and these were mostly white quartets, but they still had this southern energy and this kind of R&B twist to what they were doing, and they're these great piano players. So you're getting this, all of a sudden you're getting this injection of kind of Jerry Lee Lewis / gospel energy. And then later on I heard Jimmy Swaggart. I went to Jimmy Swaggart preaching, whatever, at a convention or wherever he was preaching, and he also played the piano. And, I suddenly got the whole feeling of what it would be like to be a Southern style piano player, and I just focused on nothing but that for the next few years. And finally got it, I think.
And Jim, I guess you grew up in a very conservative church, and the music took and the religion didn't.
You could say that, yes. You could say that. I'm a Unitarian Universalist now by philosophy, and but yes, that's stated exactly correctly. The music took and the religion didn't.
So doesn't the music have any bad associations for you?
Well, no. As I get older, I start to be a little bit more open-minded, and I understand that there are icons and there are urban myths and legends and concepts that carry through all of humanity and are very important to groups of people. And we, although we respect all these traditions, one of the things that's good about this group is we're a little irreverent. We don't take ourselves that seriously, and that comes across. It lets people off the hook, I think, to feel, the audience, that is, to feel however they want to feel when they come to our concerts. That's the way I see it.
I think also both Jim and I would venture to say the entire group understands that the spirit of the music really transcends the lyrics in a lot of ways. The message that underlies the words is powerful, and the spirit of the music sort of carries it.
This is The Front Porch on NHPR. I'm John Walters with Jim McDougall and Mary Edes, co-founders of the Funky Divas of Gospel. They're about to release a new CD called Don't Stop at Half. Mary, you are a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, I believe.
It's true. I'm sort of the last of the generation pre-merger. I was born into a Universalist family, grew up in Central Maine, and have been a Unitarian Universalist my whole life.
So how did you develop a love of gospel?
Good question. I have always enjoyed all kinds of music. My undergraduate degree was in singing. I've been singing since I was a little girl. And my mother is from the Deep South. I would love to say that I got the music from her. I don't think I ever heard her sing gospel music in my life. Largely it came from just the process of being a music director in Portsmouth and being exposed to a lot of different kinds of music, particularly working with Jim. where he had such love and respect for the gospel music of his tradition and his experience. That's really where it first started for me.
A lot of gospel songs they're about Jesus as the one way to salvation. If your views are different from that, how do you approach these songs? How do you sing them?
Well, I was just thinking the other day as we were singing "No Hiding Place," which is a song. It's a fairly exclusive song in the sense that it's Lindy Wright is a soloist, but that that's neither here nor there. But the point of the lyrics is she selected the song, and she's not what you would call a conservative Christian by any stretch. But it's something about the song that appeals to all of us, and the group immediately embraced it, even though if you carefully read the lyrics, it's exclusive. That is to say, it points out that if you don't do exactly what we say, there's punishment, and you can't be part of this group unless you believe this way. And so there are a couple of notable exceptions, which I would have difficulty explaining why we do them, because we don't necessarily adhere to the stricture of the lyrics. But it's something about the music that carries those songs.
Also, it's impossible to be a gospel group if you don't do Christian music. I mean,
exactly.
you have to do it, and that's okay. I think everyone in the group would agree that we come from various traditions, and we try to do something from each of those traditions as they present themselves. People from the group will bring in songs that they really want to do, and some of them are clearly from a Christian tradition. Some are from, as you know, Baha'i. Some are Jewish. So it's really a matter of trying to respect the various streams that all come together in this one, hopefully mighty roaring river.
Is singing a form of prayer?
For me, it is, absolutely.
I would say so, yeah. Definitely.
Well, let's hear a song from a non-Christian tradition. The Baha'i faith believes that all major religions come from one God. Their idea of progressive revelation is celebrated in the song Halle Halle. Mary Edes and Jim McDougall are on the front porch on NHPR. I'm John Walters. We'll be back after a short break. Still to come, Jim and Mary talk about doctrinal disputes, also their day jobs, Mary as Unitarian Universalist minister and Jim as a professional musician, and what it means to them to be Unitarian Universalists. And Monday on the front porch, a life in track and field.
This is New Hampshire Public Radio. Support for the Front Porch comes from contributing listeners like Anthony Thiel of Hampton, New Hampshire, and from Winchendon Furniture, Route 101A, Amherst, and Railroad Street, Winchendon, Massachusetts, a fine furniture resource family-owned for 3 generations. Historic Properties, sellers of fine antique homes, including the 1870 Gothic Victorian estate built in Concord by Judge Lyman Stevens. Information at historicprop.com. And the Manchester law firm of Devine and Nyquist, marking its 18th year as legal counselors and trial advocates for individuals and institutions throughout New Hampshire. Stay with us for more on the Front Porch, and at 7 o'clock it's Fresh Air.
This is the Front Porch on NHPR. I'm John Walters with Jim McDougall and Mary Edes, co-founders of the Funky Divas of Gospel, a group based in Portsmouth. The Divas sing spiritual songs from a variety of religious traditions. We just heard an original song, Halle Halle, from the Baha'i faith. It was written by New Hampshire resident and Divas drummer Marty Quinn. You have members from a variety of faiths and backgrounds. Are there ever any doctrinal disputes or arguments about songs?
Boy, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to think of a time where there were any doctrinal disputes. Well, I remember some raised eyebrows when we first did Hale Hale. Singing about Zoroaster
And Mohammed.
and
these days.
Mohammed.
Muhammad.
Raised a couple of eyebrows.
And
but
they wanted to know who the Bab was.
yeah,
Who was a fairly obscure, prophet from the Baha'i tradition. And people were asking, but they thought we were singing Bob, B-O-B.
Yeah.
And,
It's B-A-B.
B-A-B, right. And it was, but they went right along with it. And then, of course, gradually it was explained to them what this was all about.
It was learning that song was a real high point for me. It was one of the moments where the group really gelled and suddenly became who we've been saying we are for a number of years. There was that moment of acceptance when everybody was completely swept up in the pure joy of singing this song, that it was like we all got it. We all got it, what the Funky Divas was about.
That's true.
And bring on more.
Do you try to balance Christian and other traditions, other songs?
We do. It's not a conscious effort. There's not a whole lot of sitting around and going, okay, we've got 6 Christian songs here, and it sort of happens on its own. A lot of the things we do don't make any specific religious mention whatsoever. They just have a feeling of goodwill that grows out of them. And one of the things we said in our mission statement that we shared with with anyone who comes into the group is that we consider ourselves, when we talk about gospel, we go back to the early English etymology. It just means good news, and there's good news that grows out of all kinds of music. So there's not a conscious sitting down and keeping score of how many Christian songs we have and how many others we have, but I would say we do try to balance it.
Is the Christian tradition especially strong in music?
I think it is. I think it brings an unusual component to it, especially what has been called Americana. That is to say, those kind of musical genres that originated exclusive to this continent. And let's face it, there's been amazing things have happened on the continent of North America. The whole world embraces music that started here. So somehow that's one of those genres that just sprang probably from the South, but all of North America. And it has value just as a genre. So, and I was going to address the earlier question. We used to have a song selection committee, but the way it morphs is the soloists come to me. We have 12 soloists, or 11 now. And they come to me because they all have their own specific events that we honor. Each one of them gets to share a brunch or to be part of it. And so they come to me with songs they want to do. And these songs, the cream rises to the surface. The choir, once in a while, or either I will say on occasion, no, we're not going to do this song. But usually it just it morphs. The soloists put a lot of time and energy into thinking out the right songs. And if it happens to be an overtly Christian Jesus song, it usually finds its way in if it has the right energy and feeling.
Jim McDougall and Mary Edes are on the front porch on NHPR. They are the co-founders of the group, the Funky Divas of Gospel. I understand you don't use sheet music. How do you add new songs, and how do you sort of grow them into your repertoire?
Well, we take we use word charts, and then of course the musicians have written the chords into those charts. And if you listen to a lot of African American gospel choirs, they're just doing a harmonic interval, which is to say 2 notes, not a whole chord in most cases. So it's not as complex as you might think. Although we get into some difficult territory once in a while, But the point is, if once people find a melody line or a harmony line in their heads, and you divide them up into parts, the synapses are opened up, and they sing the parts the same way.
It's been a really fun challenge for, I think, almost everybody in the group to not work with little black dots on paper. We'll start with the melody line and then invite people to try harmonies, sing it till it sounds lousy, and then switch to something else. And it really it mostly works. As Jim says, every now and then we run into something where you go, wow, that just sounds so very awful. But usually it works, and it's been great fun and a real growing experience for those of us that grew up in traditional choirs.
Jim, what do you do when you're not leading the Funky Divas?
I'm a full-time musician. I teach private tutoring. I work with Leslie Smith's Theater of Life Puppets as an accompanist. We travel all over 5 states in New England. I play in rest homes. I play piano bar at the Orr House every Friday night in Portsmouth, at the Crescent City Bistro on Saturday nights in Dover. I do a plethora of things. I only work 9 months a year, but I work 7 days a week for those 9 months. And
What do you do the other 3?
I live in Costa Rica, Central America, for 3 months
He
every
sleeps
winter.
for 3 months.
I get a lot of sleep. Yes, I started going 6 years ago for health reasons. I have severe arthritis, and it kind of goes into remission anywhere near the equator. And so, it restores me for, the next year's diva onslaught.
Arthritis sounds like it would be a bad thing for a keyboard player to have.
Because I've been real active and I play a lot, my hands haven't been affected as much as other parts of my body, I guess. U.B. Blake, for instance, had severe arthritis, and he played right up till he was almost 90. So I don't know. Maybe that's because I keep doing it. I don't know.
Does that mean we have to do this till you're 90?
Not necessarily.
Mary, you're a Unitarian Universalist minister. What's the role of a minister in a Unitarian Universalist church? Is it different from other churches?
No, not really. My role basically is to provide Sunday services and pastoral care and adult education, and to be a sounding board and a filter. But it's really not a whole lot different than other churches or other ministries. If there is a difference, it would be that we have something called a free pulpit. In our tradition, and this is true in others as well, I know, I am free to say whatever I am moved to say from the pulpit without any expectation that the people sitting in the pews are going to agree with me. And they're free to get up and speak from the pulpit as well, their own views.
I would think in a church that has a specific doctrine that there would be a certain amount of doctrinal guidance performed by the minister. The Unitarian Universalist Church is stereotypically the church that doesn't believe in anything. Yeah. Is there a doctrinal component to it? How do you guide people?
No. What we have, it's a creedless denomination. And that's not entirely unusual. There are other liberal Christian religions that are also creedless. We have what we call our 7 principles, Unitarian Universalist principles, and those are a guiding force for us. And they include things like inherent worth and respecting the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence. It's that sort of thing that it's principles that would pretty much exclude anybody that wanted to come in and express, for instance, racist views, or so again, it's sort of self-selecting. But no, that we don't have a doctrine per se. It's a good place to go and consider what you do think and believe, as opposed to being told this is what we think and believe, therefore you must do the same thing.
Jim, you're not a minister, but you belong to a UU church. What
Yes.
does it mean to you?
It was an important thing for me to find out about it. How it escaped me is beyond me. All my life there was a strong Universalist tradition in Portsmouth. But I didn't come to it until later in life. After really kind of a 10-year famine, I was really kind of discouraged with most of what I knew about religion. And it's been a very important enlightenment for me to find out that there are, especially the role that Unitarianism has played in American history. Many of the people who ran the Underground Railroad, for instance, were Unitarian Universalists or from that tradition. And during the Vietnam War, there were lots of places that you could go if you felt that you didn't want to fight in the Vietnam War, and they would help you understand how to go about avoiding that. And it was important, very important cutting-edge stuff. The first non-African American to be killed during a protest march in the South in the 60s, I believe, was a Unitarian Universalist minister. So this is an important tradition. Their social side of it has been very important to me, and also their philosophy. So.
Jim McDougall and Mary Edes are on the front porch on NHPR. They're the co-founders of the Funky Divas of Gospel. Let's hear another song from the Funky Divas' new double CD. This is the energetic conclusion of Prayer Changes Things.
Came
Prayer Changes Things by the Funky Divas of Gospel. So where do the Funky Divas go from here?
Good question.
Well, I envision us starting another kind of maybe a 2-year. I'm this kind of person who has like a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan. But I envision for the next 2 years some minor changes in the soloist lineup. There'll be new songs coming in. We want to keep doing our gospel brunches. They've been very successful, and we're still, the only game in town as far as that's concerned. And it's just a growing concept. We're going to be doing a concert. Our plan is to do a concert next year in the fall, about this time, with Mighty Sam McLean. So we will both be featured. And we have plans to take this, maybe to the Capitol Center for the Arts, other venues in New Hampshire and New England, and take it to the next level. We do about 18 to 20 concerts or brunches every season. And that's about as much as we work in the choir pretty hard. I mean, everyone's got day jobs, and it's about all you can extract out of these poor people. But they have a great time. I mean, they love doing it. But
Yeah, just ask them.
yeah, so I envision that's where we'll go. Much of the same, and we're going to hopefully take it to another level as far as bigger concert halls.
Well, Mary and Jim, thank you very much for coming in, and best of luck with the Funky Divas.
You're so welcome.
Thank you so much, John.
Jim McDougall and Mary Edes of the Funky Divas of Gospel. The Divas' new double CD is called Don't Stop at Half. Information at the website funky-divas.com. We'll post a link on the front porch section of nhpr.org. The Funky Divas are celebrating their new CD with a concert on Saturday the 22nd at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Portsmouth. Details at the Divas website. And we'll go out on a high note, the title song from the Funky Divas' new CD, Don't Stop at Half.
Get up and dance. Let your body be the altar. Get up and dance. Your spirit will not falter. Get up and shout.
Be heard across the nation.
Get up and shout.
A heavenly vibration.
Get up and clap.
Worship with your hands.
Get up and clap.
Release the words to man.
Get up and laugh.
A sound from the earth.
Get up and laugh.
Revel in your mirth.
Monday on the front porch, a life in track and field. In the 1940s, Boo Morcom was one of the best athletes in the country. He competed in the 1948 Olympics. He spent his career as a coach and was a pioneer in creating opportunities for female athletes. He's now 82 years old and is a volunteer coach at a New Hampshire middle school. The Front Porch is online at nhpr.org. You can get more information about the show, sign up to get our weekly schedule by email, and order copies of the show on CD or cassette. That's at nhpr.org. The Front Porch is produced by Laura Colbert and Shay Zeller. I'm John Walters. Join me on the Front Porch Monday at 6:30 on New Hampshire Public Radio.
This is New Hampshire Public Radio, coming up to 7 o'clock and fresh air next at the top of the hour. NHPR thanks Jane Fiderio of Gilsum, New Hampshire for supporting New Hampshire Public Radio. We also thank Bonneville Chrysler Jeep Dodge Kia of Manchester, New Hampshire's customer satisfaction dealer, celebrating 56 years of sales and community service. 800-640-9280. The Co-op Food Stores, working in partnership with area farmers, bakers, dairy producers, and other small businesses which are vital to our economy. And UNH Manchester, the university's urban campus, offering liberal arts and applied programs for people in Greater Manchester. Online at unhm.unh.edu. This is New Hampshire Public Radio, WEVO Concord 89.1, WEVH Hanover 91.3, WEVN Keene at 90.7, WEVC Gorham 107.1, and WEVJ Jackson at 99.5 FM.